When the HOA Karen slammed her clipboard against my mailbox and declared my driveway a hazard, I knew she was about to turn my life into her personal drama. But I never expected city engineers to get dragged into her mission to control every square inch of my property. And I definitely didn't expect her daughter to become an internet spectacle over my cows. It all started on a Saturday morning when Karen marched up my driveway like an off-brand sheriff. She claimed my driveway's curve violated a visual cohesion guideline the HOA apparently invented that very moment. I told her the curve had been there since the house was built. She said that didn't matter. "Zoning laws change," she snapped. By Monday, a city truck pulled up with 2 engineers, clipboards in hand. They looked puzzled, as if trying to figure out why they were there at all. I showed them the original plat map. They nodded, clearly unimpressed with Karen's complaint. One said, "This is perfectly legal." Of course, Karen didn't take that well. She pivoted to a new attack: my cows. Specifically, she didn't like that they sometimes wandered near the fence during her morning reflection walk. But the real twist came when her teenage daughter, who was otherwise pretty polite, started taking selfies with my cows for her social media. At first, I didn't mind. The cows liked the attention. But one day I caught Karen lecturing her daughter about how even the livestock here should be regulated. That's when I decided to have a little fun. Not mean, not dangerous, just fun. So the next time her daughter posed with my cows, I rolled up slowly on my manure loader, lifting the bucket just high enough to photobomb. She burst out laughing. Karen did not. Little did I know that harmless moment would send the whole neighborhood into a tailspin and push Karen to take things to a level none of us saw coming. As the story spread through the street, neighbors started sending me screenshots of the photos circulating online. Most people thought it was hilarious, a perfect example of rural life meeting suburban expectations. But for Karen, it became a fresh reason to claim I was creating a public disturbance. She even sent a mass email warning residents that I was using heavy machinery to intimidate children. That was a stretch, to say the least. Still, I tried to stay calm. I figured the drama would die down, just like every other HOA flare-up she'd started. But instead, it got stranger. A few neighbors told me Karen was planning to petition the HOA to force me to move my fence and redesign the driveway for the safety of the community. Apparently, the next week felt like living in a slow-motion sitcom, except the laugh track was replaced with HOA emails. Karen was on a mission, sending out paragraph-long messages filled with dramatic warnings about my non-compliant driveway and unmonitored farm equipment. Most neighbors ignored her, but a few seemed entertained enough to attend the emergency HOA meeting she scheduled in her backyard. She even set up folding chairs and a podium, because of course she did. I didn't attend. Instead, I listened from my porch while feeding the cows. Her voice carried across the cul-de-sac like a megaphone dipped in frustration. "If we don't act now," she said, "we risk the integrity of our neighborhood aesthetic." It sounded like she was campaigning for office, not complaining about a patch of concrete and a couple of cows. Later that evening, one of my neighbors, Tom, came over. He's the type who always has a toolbox in hand, even when he's not fixing anything. "She's trying to get signatures," he said, shaking his head. "She wants the HOA to mandate corrective action. Her words, not mine." I asked how many people had signed so far. Tom snorted. 3, and 2 of them left early because she tried to make everyone chant, "Uniformity matters." Still, Karen didn't give up. The next day, she showed up at my property line with a tape measure, pacing back and forth while muttering about setback violations. One of the cows wandered up to the fence and stared at her. Karen measured the cow too. I have no idea why. Meanwhile, her daughter kept visiting the cows for more selfies, although now she approached quietly, as if afraid her mom might appear out of thin air like some rule-enforcing spirit. She apologized for the drama and said the manure loader photobomb was iconic. I told her it was all in good fun. She laughed, then hurried off before Karen could notice. Things escalated when a bright orange notice appeared on my mailbox. Request for property review. HOA discrepancy inquiry. It looked official, but anyone who's ever seen actual city documents could tell it was just something Karen printed on her home computer with a fancy template. I contacted the city engineer who visited earlier. He actually laughed on the phone. We told her everything was compliant. Twice. She keeps asking for a second opinion. And then a third. That explained why yet another city vehicle pulled up 2 days later. This time, the engineer didn't even bother getting out of the truck at first. He just stared at the driveway like it personally offended him to be there again. But that visit, unexpected as it was, ended up uncovering something none of us had anticipated. The third visit from the city engineers began with the kind of exhausted sigh you only hear from people who have explained the same thing far too many times. The lead engineer, a guy named Alvarez, finally stepped out of the truck holding a tablet and a thermos, as if caffeine alone was keeping him committed to the cause. "I assume this is another HOA complaint," he said before I even greeted him. "Karen again," I replied. He nodded like I'd confirmed a weather report. He walked over to the driveway, scanned it with his tablet, and tapped the screen a few times. "Still compliant," he said. "Still stable. Still not endangering mankind." But before he could leave, Karen stormed out of her house, clutching a binder thick enough to be used as a doorstop. "You need to look at the runoff issue," she demanded. "The curve in his driveway is directing water toward the street, which could cause erosion of the sidewalk." Alvarez blinked slowly, clearly resisting the urge to walk back into the truck and drive into the sunset. "Ma'am, the slope is within regulation. That's not what my research says," she interrupted. She flipped open her binder to a page filled with printouts, diagrams, and what looked suspiciously like screenshots from a landscaping blog. Still, Alvarez humored her. He walked a slow circle around the lower edge of my driveway, as if searching for some hidden flaw he might have missed. Then he crouched near the storm drain. And that's when everything changed. He tapped the concrete twice. A hollow sound echoed back. He frowned. "That's odd." Karen clapped her hands like she'd just won a carnival prize. "I knew it." But Alvarez wasn't looking at her. He traced the pavement with his fingers. "This slab shouldn't be hollow. Did you do any construction here recently?" "No," I said. "Not since moving in." The second engineer joined him, tapping along the line until they reached a patch of ground right beside the drain. Alvarez crouched again. "This might be unrelated to your HOA issue, but it looks like the previous homeowner covered something. Maybe an old access hatch." Karen gasped like she'd uncovered a conspiracy. See? His driveway is hiding infrastructure." "It's not hiding anything," Alvarez said. "It just means something underground wasn't documented." A few minutes later, the engineers retrieved a metal detector from the truck. The device buzzed immediately over the hollow area. "This could be a sealed maintenance chute," Alvarez said. "We're going to have to pull city records." Karen smiled triumphantly, convinced she'd won. But when the city records arrived, they revealed something that stunned all of us, including her. 2 days later, a city clerk's sedan rolled up, followed by a utility supervisor and, unfortunately, Karen, who must have been watching from her window like a hawk waiting for prey. The clerk carried a thin manila folder, nothing like the binder-thick drama Karen had been lugging around. She looked disappointed by that alone. Alvarez opened the folder, scanned the first page, and let out a short, surprised breath. "Well, this explains it." Karen leaned in so far she practically hovered over his shoulder. "Is it illegal? Tell me it's illegal." He shook his head. "No, actually, it's the opposite." He turned the page toward me. "Your driveway is built over a decommissioned utility inspection chute. The city sealed it in 1998 and transferred maintenance responsibility to the county. It hasn't been active for over 25 years. Karen blinked. "But that means his driveway is wrong, right? It's unstable." Alvarez chuckled. "Ma'am, this driveway is sitting above reinforced concrete. If anything, it's stronger than the rest of the street." Her face fell so fast, I swear even the cows paused their chewing. The utility supervisor stepped forward. Actually, this helps us. We've been missing documentation on this old line for years. We'll update our system. No repairs needed, no violations. Everything is sound. Keran looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. But the HOA guidelines don't override city compliance, the supervisor interrupted gently but firmly. That alone could have ended the chaos, but fate decided to sprinkle on one more twist. The clerk handed me a second paper. This letter is for you. It's confirmation that the city is officially closing the complaint file. We'll also note the repeated unnecessary requests. Keran froze. Repeated? Alvarez cleared his throat. Ma'am, you submitted 9 separate claims about this driveway. And the cows. The cows? I asked. He nodded. Something about ungoverned bovine activity. The clerk really tried not to laugh. Keran muttered something about neighborhood integrity and stormed back to her house, binder flapping at her side like a frustrated wing. Meanwhile, her daughter walked over, cheeks red but smiling. My mom's dramatic, she said softly, but those cow selfies, they blew up online. People love the manure loader photobomb. I laughed. Glad someone enjoyed it. She shrugged. Honestly, they made the whole neighborhood look fun. Even Mom's meltdown is kind of trending. Sure enough, later that day, I got a message from Tom. A meme of my manure loader rising heroically behind a cow captioned, "When HOA Keran can't stop the farm vibes." That was the moment I realized the chaos had finally burned itself out. Keran avoided me for weeks. The city filed everything away, and the cows, simple creatures that they are, went right back to being local celebrities. Drama over. Driveway safe. Peace restored. Enjoying this wild ride through HOA drama, driveway mysteries, and cow-powered plot twists? Tap subscribe so you don't miss more real-life stories that feel like sitcom episodes. If this chapter gave you a laugh, hit like and drop a comment telling me your favorite moment so far. I'm curious, whose side would you have taken in this neighborhood showdown?